Hey everybody, this is Rustin with Metalholic, and of course the Examiner with us today, Björn Strid, founder of Soilwork. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Absolutely wonderful. It is a great year so far for metal, and you guys are about to unleash a double album, The Living Infinite, well, basically this weekend. Yesterday it came out in Europe, and on Tuesday, March 5th, it comes out here in North America. Mm-hmm. You've had the title of the album, The Living Infinite, in mind for a while. What does that mean to you? What's The Living Infinite about?
Well, The Living Infinite comes from how Jules Verne, he was describing the ocean. I thought that was a really cool description. And since the album deals with a lot of existential thoughts and matters, I thought that was kind of a cool title for it. I kind of connect the ocean to a lot of existential things. You know, I was growing up by the ocean, and I still live by the ocean. So I don't know. It just makes me think a lot when looking out over the ocean. So that's why we kind of have that connection to the lyrical theme, and also with the title, and also the cover, which is pretty, oceanic and like nautical looking.
Right. And you opted to make this a double album to sort of challenge yourselves and bring forth the songwriting talent of the entire band. It's a rather daunting endeavor. It must have been pretty important to you to make this happen.
Absolutely. I mean, it is pretty cool that the whole band has been involved. It's really a band effort. Like, every member of this band has contributed with lyrics and songwriting, which is, pretty unique, I would say. It's usually, in the metal genre, when you see other bands, it's usually like 2 or 3 people writing the songs, and that's it. And it's pretty remarkable that we've been able to put this beast of an album and a double album as a band together. And I think we needed to do that because of, we wanted the diversity in the album as well. I don't think it would have worked if we put, let's say, like 2 Stabbing the Dramas together. It wouldn't have been the same thing. So it is making sense. Because of the diversity, it doesn't really get boring.
Right, and you're right, it absolutely doesn't. It's a phenomenal album. Now, rather than record the album in numerous places, as so many bands do these days, you built this sort of from the ground up in one studio, I believe.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we felt that we needed to do that again. I mean, that's how it worked in the beginning of our career. We recorded everything from scratch in the same studio. So I think it was time for that again, because, like you mentioned, when you record, maybe let's say guitars in one studio and then drums in a different one, and then mixing the album in a third, it kind of gets a little spread out. So I think it was important for us as a band, to really connect, since we live spread out all over the world, so it's not like we really hang out except being on tour. So we were basically, booking the studio for 2 months and living there together, cooking together and building the album up from scratch. I think that was really the perfect recipe for this album.
Right. Well, and that's sort of getting back to the way things used to be done. And you grew up on a lot of the same bands that I did. The groups where every guy in the band used to write and perform and sometimes sing as well. Kiss, stuff like that. Yeah. And they all went into the studio and all recorded together. It wasn't spread out all over the place. And I think that makes for better albums that last longer. Now, you're the only remaining original member of the band. This is only the second record for Sylvan and the first for David. Plus, you guys, as you said, are spread out all over the place. Does recording in one place like you did and getting everyone involved in the writing help make the band a more of a cohesive unit, or is that really more a product of touring?
I think it made us more into a unit, especially after, everything that happened with Peter coming back to the band and then leaving again. And I think we needed this challenge and to be together to make it a strong unit again, really. And I think it's been really important for us to prove to ourselves and our listeners that there are other amazing songwriters in the band, for sure. So.
Right. And as you just mentioned, Peter once again left the band, and in David Anderson, who toured with you guys obviously before, but in David you found a formidable replacement who gives inspired performances on The Living Infinite. How did the changing of the guards, so to speak, impact the record in your mind?
I think he brought a lot of interesting things to the table. He really wanted to, bring back some of the melancholy that we had on the 3-4 first albums, and I think we lost that after a while, and that was something he was pinpointing, that he missed in our music, and I'm not saying that he had to, he didn't really have to adjust or adapt to writing Soilwork songs. It was really a natural thing for him, especially since he's been touring with us before, and we know him both on a like a personal level and also musically. So I think it was pretty easy for him, to get into the Soilwork mood. It's really close to his heart, and as I said, like some of that melancholy he brought back, and I think we sound really Scandinavian again, or more Scandinavian, like we used to in that sense, So I think that's a really interesting thing, and it has kind of a melancholic vibe throughout the whole album, in different levels of intensity.
Certainly. And there was certainly a ghost of a new direction, a progressive turn, if you will, on the Panic broadcast. The Living Infinite really seems to breathe with these new elements. Was that the goal and the ongoing direction of Soilwork?
I think so, yeah, because I feel with Panic broadcast, I feel we were hinting at something, that was supposed to come later, and I think everything is falling into the right place with this album, because Panic broadcast was kind of like, it's pretty diverse as well, and there was some new elements, I feel we've refined those elements now, and I really feel like and strongly believe that this is like the start of a new era, without sounding too, how can I say, using too much of a cliche, but it really feels like that, in that sense. I think we're touching it, on something new with this album. So it's going to be really interesting to see where this is going. But yeah,
absolutely. And there are 20 tracks on the new record. I think it's like 20. Are there one or two that speak perhaps more loudly to you than the others?
Hard to say. I mean, Spectrum of Eternity, I built that song from scratch as well. It's been a pretty interesting challenge. I did contribute with 8 songs on this album, writing them from scratch on guitar and then adding, lyrics and vocals and all of that. But Spectrum stands out in a way that it's really going straight to that kind of thought of realizing my own existence. And it's bringing up all, the kind of scarier parts of those thoughts, and it's my way of de-dramatizing that feeling, and finding acceptance, and that kind of goes throughout the whole album, but especially that one is going straight to the core of the fear of the fear of dying even.
And is there sort of one main message that you guys are trying to convey with this record?
I don't know if it's really a message, but it's really dealing with all those personal experiences. I was had a pretty horrific incident in Arizona where I woke up one morning and after a whole day of drinking, and I was really hitting a wall, and I woke up and I thought I was dead. I strongly believe that I was dead, and I'm sure you can understand that was unbelievably scary feeling, right? So that later led me into thinking a lot about my own existence and about where my thoughts and feelings go when I die, and also about, what if life is a projection? What if we coexist somewhere else? Stuff like that. And those, some of those thoughts are not really helping you in your daily life. And so it's been my way of it's kind of been therapeutic in a way. To kind of reach level of acceptance, that I won't get any answers to all of those questions. So, but it's still, I would consider it a pretty hopeful album. There's a lot of hope in it.
Right. Well, having lived in Phoenix, Arizona myself for 7 years, I can tell you I woke up most mornings and felt like I was dead or dying. So I think it has something to do with that city.
I don't know. It's party town for sure.
Oh, yeah. But now, and you guys just put out a new video from the album, Rise Above the Sentiment. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, basically, when we were in the studio, there was Jens Bogren, the producer, his assistant, Linus. I was talking to him because I wanted to make a little bit of a making of, like, webisodes or whatever. And that didn't happen. It's going to be later, like a full making of documentary instead. But he also mentioned that, you know, this guy makes, like, you know, he makes, like, videos as well. You know, he's doing a lot of filming and stuff. And I was like, okay, so how about making, like, a making of music video instead? So we sent all our material to him. And then he just asked me, so I have this old man, you know, he wants to be in the video. And I have this, like, pretty cool, you know, view of making it kind of like a VHS like quality and stuff, and I thought it sounded pretty cool. And I was laughing so hard getting that video with the old man dancing to the music, and I thought it was brilliant. And also the fact that it's VHS, like, and people are like, why is this such bad quality? What is this? You know, some people don't get it. It's like, okay, this old man, like, he's watching a tape, a VHS tape. That's the whole story. But people, like, some people don't seem to get it. I don't know.
I thought it was classic, so I had to ask about it.
So.
Now, talking about music in general, in the late 90s and into the new millennium, sort of after the 90s grunge tried to kill off metal, there was a resurgence in the form of extreme metal, most of it with the harsh, often undecipherable vocals, and it progressed into the more extreme, the better. Now many bands are starting to bring back more of a traditional metal style, more clean vocal elements. Has the whole extreme metal movement and the Cookie Monster vocal thing sort of become played out in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, it all depends, you know. There's a lot of bands out there. I mean, I guess we were a part of that scene, you know, especially with Natural Born Chaos. Like, it definitely had a huge impact on the metalcore scene, especially in America.
Right.
And, you know, there's so many bands that do it well, and probably even more that are not doing it that well, actually. But you know, it's a huge scene. There's so many bands out there, right? So it's kind of hard to keep track of every band. But it's kind of it's all about presence, you know. If you just do it like, okay, we're gonna have screamy verses and melodic choruses, and that's it, and it sounds so processed. There's got to be a thought behind it, you know. It's got to make sense. Right. And so there's definitely some bands out there that you can really feel the presence, because that's really the key word to me. You know, it doesn't matter how you sing; you got to feel that presence.
All right. Well, I just always sort of wondered what, you know, especially bands who had been in the extreme metal, because that's, like you said, you had that pocket of extreme metal for yourselves and everything, but it seems like following the history of rock and roll, everything has gotten louder, more extreme, more angry, more. It has to keep exceeding itself. And at what point do we get to that point where we're like, okay, how much farther can we go with this?
I know. I mean, you can't really play any faster anymore. Like, I have a hard time seeing any drummer playing faster. That, like, there's so many drummers out there, like, killing it. Like, insane speeds, you know. So I can't really see that going further. And then as far as vocals, you know, one thing I've realized is that, you know, it took me a while, because in the beginning I just like, okay, I'm gonna add clean vocals, you know, and that was it. And after a while I realized, like, it's all about, you know, like, even like breathy clean vocals can be just as brutal as, you know, Cookie Monster vocals, because of the presence, like I mentioned before. You know, right. You can really feel it. They can be really has that brutality in them. It's kind of hard to explain, but
no, I get it.
There are different ways to make things more brutal. If you ask me, it doesn't necessarily need to be like faster or like lower or more guttural, or, you know, there are ways.
Now, last year at this time, you released The Constancy with Blinded in Bliss, and it sort of flew largely under the radar last year, but it's an incredible album. Can you tell us a little bit about that project?
Well, basically, I was in the studio with John Howard, because I'm living like in Toronto. I just recently moved here, but I've been spending like the latest 3 years here, like a lot of time. And me and John Howard from the Threat Signal, we've been producing some local bands together in his studio. And one of the bands was Blinded in Bliss, and it started with me just doing like a guest appearance on one song, and then I ended up like writing all of the melody lines for the vocals, and I became the singer. So it kind of became my Canadian band whenever I was here. I mean, it's like a non-touring band. It's more like a studio project. But
Right.
I really, really like the guys. So really talented as well. So I don't know. It just I don't know what happened. It just happened. But yeah, I mean, it turned out really cool.
Yeah, there's some real talent in there, like you said, John Howard, Bill Four from Mutiny Within and Vexed and whatnot. So now, and you've done a lot of guest appearances over the years. Shadow Side, Camelot, Demon Hunter, Motionless and White come to mind. Are there new ones coming up on the horizon that we can look forward to?
I just did guest vocals for a Russian band called Polygon. And they're from Chelyabinsk in the Ural Mountains in Russia. They contacted me, and I thought that was just interesting. You know, I do like working with other bands and trying out new things and whatnot. So it's pretty interesting. They sent me the tracks, and I did the vocals, and I sent the vocals. And the day after, the meteor hit Chelyabinsk.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, wow, that's where they live. And I sent them an email like, you know, I was like, are you guys okay? Like, and it took like 5 days, and I got actually a little bit worried because they were in touch with me every day. Like, hey, how are things going? How are things going? Like, check it in. And then they suddenly disappeared. But I got an email back like a couple of days after that. So they were okay, but it was pretty weird how that happened as well.
Now, what draws you to doing the little cameos and guest appearances, and how do you choose which ones to do? Or do you do them all?
I don't do them all. I mean, obviously, you know, being off tour and everything, you know, sometimes it's good to make some money on the side as well. But that, you know, if I don't like it, there's no way I'm doing it. So it's got to be something that feels challenging or interesting in any way, you know. And you know, so far, I mean, I'm getting like emails from all kinds of genres, like wanting me to do vocals, and I think that's pretty cool. You know, it's an honor in that sense that people are, you know, thinking of me as a guest vocalist.
Absolutely. So, and now when you guys put out the album here in a week, you're kicking off the tour cycle for the Living Infinite over here in the U.S. Thank you very much. And then with the European tour, I think later in the fall.
Yeah.
How much of the new album do you think we'll get? Obviously, you didn't really get to do a whole lot of touring with the Panic broadcast. How much of that do you think we'll get? And how are you going to put together that set list, man? That's going to be brutal.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, I can tell you that much. Well, I mean, I guess we have to see, with the new album, we have to see it out of a promotional perspective, right? Because the album comes out like right in the beginning of the tour, and I guess people are not going to be that familiar with the song. So I think people would be pretty disappointed if we play like, oh, we're going to play 10 songs from the new album, and then like, you know, like 8 from the rest of our back catalog. So I don't think that would have worked out very well. So I think we're going to play maybe 4 or 5 from the new album, and then kind of a mixed set from our back catalog. And then we'll have to play more from the new album, hopefully, when we come back. You know, I would love to do that.
Well, as the last question for fun, I mentioned before, you and I grew up on many of the same bands, Kiss, Wasp, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, bands like that. Tons of seminal albums. Is there one record in your collection that's sort of your go-to record, the Motivator album, if you will?
The Motivator album. Wow. Well, there's a bunch for sure, but I mean, I love Destroyer with Kiss. It's one of my faves for sure. And let's see, in Maiden, Number of the Beast, you always kind of come back to that one as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Priest, Killing Machine, Hellbent for Life, or whatever you want to call it.
Yes, Killing Machine. Yes, thank you very much. Yes, my favorite, and a favorite cover of all times.
Awesome. Bjorn, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with us. The new album, The Living Infinite, out next week, March 1st overseas, March 5th here in the States, and they're coming to the States to tour. We're looking forward to it, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the road, man.